questions and comments about the foam balls?
Is that I was expecting, after we hit last time, and I saw such a huge change, that it wouldn't necessarily last that long. I was kind of thinking it would be sort of I would have the
momentary
feeling,
effect,
and then it would sort of dissipate. And it did to some extent. But what I would say is that I could still recognize the feeling when it happened again, and I could sort of recreate it if I was just conscientious about it, which I was surprised about. I was honestly surprised that after like 5 minutes of hitting with them, I mean maybe 5 minutes, that it was sort of like that was ingrained.
It's really an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the book Talent Code?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because people have these crazy notions about myelin and how locked in habits are. And I'm way more of a believer in people's ability to change and grow and move quickly from one thing to the next, more than those scientists are.
Yeah.
So the science, I'm not totally sold on the science of myelin and habit creation. So absolutely, if you just do this a couple of minutes every once in a while, you will continue to build that, and it'll come quickly and stay longer. Here we go. Ready to hit you?
So here's the question. I
Yes.
had a question.
Question.
So the thing that I found though is that while I was hitting the ball much harder, much easier. I didn't have to try as much, which helped. But I had a harder time generating the same amount of topspin. So I was sacrificing a lot of topspin for speed, and I wasn't able to really bridge the gap very well.
Okay.
So I was like, a lot of balls were very close to the baseline or over the baseline by a foot.
Yes.
And the only way I could bring them back was to sort of revert to some of my more not as good habits, but that produce more topspin.
Yes. Okay.
So that's the question. If that was the question.
No, that's a great comment as we get started, because essentially now what we can do is we can shift towards making this more of a topspin lesson.
Okay.
So the first objective is to get you going through the ball, plowing through the ball better. Yeah. And then the next objective is to put an optimal amount of spin on. Because the problem that I see is too many people hit too much topspin too often.
Right.
And then they get so reliant on hitting topspin that they can't flatten the ball out to win a point right away. Yeah. And or they end up hitting a lot of balls really short in the court. Yeah. Two hands on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. Come a little closer. All right, now we're not going to immediately start hitting a lot of topspin with this one. Okay. We're just going to warm up. We're warming up to get the drive going. You can put a little top on there, but okay. So another thing that happens with this, it will make a lack of control show up. Try to keep it out in front and go cleanly. Yep. This also creates a visual challenge because it's harder to get that ball in the middle of your sweet spot. So let's focus on right there, the middle of the racket. Okay. Yep. Good. Wind. Good. Thank you, gust of wind, for showing yourself right there, because wind does affect these balls. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. When the coach misses, it doesn't count against the player. 14, 15, 16, 17, 20. Okay, so I generally recommend starting to hit a little bit of topspin with the 150 millimeter ball, not rough and the dull topspin.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's especially easy with those big balls to just sort of like only hit topspin.
Yes, a ball with no spin that hits the court picks up 2,000 RPMs of topspin. It's interesting because when Agassi and Sampras were playing, their average shot speed in terms of topspin was slightly under 2,000 RPMs of topspin.
Okay, yeah.
And to me, that explains the so-called heavy ball. Because when the topspin matches what the friction would have been, then the ball doesn't slow down as much. So let's put a little bit of topspin on there, and then look to see if the ball's speeding up or not. Okay? See, my ball, the spin didn't speed up a tremendous amount right there. Okay? Now see how that was a little too much?
Yeah.
Did a little too much brush up.
Yeah.
So I like to, these will also help you to go through the ball as you're trying to roll it forward. Okay? Like we have started with tossing. I like to think of this as a roll toss. So you're roll tossing forward. That's a little too much. Go for a 20-shot rally here with decent topspin. No, it's a little too much. So there you go. We don't want to overspin it. There you go. Through it. Hear that sound?
Yeah.
And that sound gives you feedback about how cleanly you're hitting the topspin.
Yeah.
When people hit topspin, it takes away speed from the ball. The speed of the ball is being translated into the spin.
Yeah.
But if your spin goes more onto the ball rather than around the ball, then you don't lose as much speed. So if you're waiting for a practice partner, then you can whack a few against the fence, and there aren't too many things that you can hit against the fence that will come back pretty uniformly.
Right, yeah.
So that's a nice benefit as well.
Do you use a smaller ball when you do that?
You can do it with all three. All three of them do bounce off the wall, off the fence. Try to cut down on excess topspin. Really focus on going through. Yep. Nice. My philosophy of topspin is you should be hitting enough to make the ball go in.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, then you better have an objective for it. It's either a change of pace, or it's to make an angle, right?
Yeah.
Or to make the ball bounce higher.
Right.
So otherwise I want to see a drive. I want to see a topspin drive shot.